you, Prof. Judea. Really a great presentation as usual. Please welcome with me our second speaker, Prof. Abdallah Adlan. Prof.
السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد عليه وعلى آله أزكى صلاة والتسليم. أول حاجة اسمي عبد الله عدلان. مرحبا بكم. Our colleagues actually prepared few slides that is very crude. Says the law says 1, the law says 2, the law says 3. So I'll give it to you in 5 minutes and I'll be done and see you next year, inshallah. As-salama. Of course, I'm not going to do that, but I'll leave you the slide for sure. I'd like to start with the usual suspect, the IRBs. Why is everybody have problem with the IRB? And I'd like to start with the history of IRB in the kingdom, how it happens to tell the decision makers that we need an IRB or we need a system of ethics that actually outside of the research body to assess the let's say, the scientific merits, the ethical aspects around research. And then from that, I will take you into the journey of how did this adhere to the system that we have here. Before I do that, I will ask the general question that I usually ask anybody who attended any kind of talk that I give, maybe in a way or other have heard this question before. So do you think clinical trial is a business or science? So who would say both? Let's give it percentages. So who would say it's majority business and who would say majority science? Majority science. And that would say majority business. We have biases here. Okay. I will tell you why I think clinical trial is majority business. But it's not a big problem because we need this business. If you do some sort of benchmarking of all the countries that actually in the map of science, map of healthcare, you will find clinical trial is very important part of this economy of healthcare. So it is important. But don't make the mistake that it is pure science or it is majority even science. It's important. But the people who's actually driving it are pharma industry. Pharma industry are driven by economical needs. For example, if there is a problem that doesn't have the economic value, less likely as a businessman, I'm not going just for the kindness of my heart, going to invest into billions of dollars to come up with a solution that will not yield the investment back that I put in. That's normal. It's not a crime. It's very, very normal. But from the other hand, what will make the equivalence or what make the balance is governments that aware of this importance, aware of making the healthcare economy appealing to the investors to invest in, so they will, in the end of the day, have the solutions, which is medications or patients' well-being, and in the same times push in this kind of economy the need of the country to solve their own problems when it comes to other kind of challenges. So let's start with the first things. What happened in the kingdom made us or made the government think that it's important to have external body to look into the merits of research. Do you know the first uterus transplant in the world happened in Saudi Arabia. And it's happened like 20 to 25 years ago. It happened in Jeddah. What happened is that there was a lady who wanted children. She had children, but she wanted more children. So she went to a physician, OB-GYN physician. She tried everything basically, and the last resort that the physician wanted to help her with is to try this innovative procedure, 3 dotted line under innovative procedure, to transplant uterus from a lady, a donor, to this recipient person. So it happened. They convinced the recipient, the donor, and they have the consent of everybody. They did the surgery, and it was a success. So 2002, the first transplant of uterus, or successful uterus transplant, happened in Saudi Arabia in Jeddah. Now, what happened after that was the landmark. There was an outcry because of the vagueness of this operation. What exactly was transferred or transplanted? Was the uterus alone was transplanted, or like the other parts which is produce the eggs in the female body was transplanted? So what is the law says about that? What is the religion say about that? Was it an kind of abuse? Because the lady who was actually happened to be a donor came up with a complaint telling the authority that they didn't actually know that it's going to be transplanted, or what they know that's going to be just removed from her body. So the hospital showed signed informed consent, and it was chaos. Everybody was talking about it. So at that time, King Fahad was the king at Saudi Arabia. He issued a decree to have a group of people study this situation and stop the fighting in the newspaper and media at the time, and study it academically. What happened, what went wrong, and how can we solve it? And basically what happened was there was a challenge in the process itself. There was not enough, let's say, animal trials to ensure the safety of this procedure, which actually triggered most of the governance people when it comes to transfer an idea from the vacuum of your, or phantom of your imagination to reality. You have to do the exercises, which is at one time you have to do some sort of animal transplantation, animal research, then assess the safety and do it in human eventually. So there was a lot of analysis, a lot of investigations happening in, and the group of people, the group of independent people from the Ministry of Health said that then it's important to have an external body to study the research before it's being conducted, because they deem this as a research, although it's a borderline. Is it a research? Is it a treatment? So from that time, 2002, the initiation of the National Committee of Bioethics was acquainted or announced, and then from there they announced the rule of IRB a few years after that. So that's why it's important to have an IRB. We talk about two things now. First, the importance of clinical trial, yet the importance of understanding it's a business space, a business thing. Second, the exploitation that might happen, and you need an external body to assess that it is safe, it is fair to the people who's actually participating in this kind of clinical trial. So these two important pillars are the most important pillars that actually make us look into IRBs. Now, the challenge that Dr. Ahmed talked about it before this presentation, which is some IRBs take longer time than other IRB, and they are the usual suspect when it comes to hindering the process of clinical trial or introducing kingdom as a market for clinical trial pharma industry to come and invest and be part of the economic circle. I think we have reasons for that. One of the reasons is the lack of knowledge among the IRB member. The IRB member responsibilities, let me just go quickly with the slides and then I'll go back to this chat in a quick manner. Who is controlling the slides? Oh, thank you. So the first slide is just giving you the article of law. As I promised you, I'm going to talk about law in these slides and nothing but law. The article says that to establish, no establishment may conduct any kind of research unless they have registered, an IRB registered in the NCBE. The next slide is touching on the importance of this committee and what does the committee do. It's verified the research, confirmed the applicable laws in the kingdom, verify the validity of the informed consent procedure, and this is very important because informed consent is the only document that would transfer this kind of transaction between the pharma industry or the hospitals to the patient, make it legal from criminal offense actually, because what's clinical trial? Clinical trial, from its name, it's a trial with a percentage that we don't know, what we call it equipoise. Equipoise means that we are not 100% sure that what we are giving this patient is going to work. So this patient has to know that he's under a trial, and this patient has to consent to be part of this trial. So one of the most important job of this IRB or Human Ethics Committee is to ensure that there is a very well written informed consent. Devil in details. Sometimes we receive informed consents that comes to 30 pages or even more. So 30 pages is too much to be read by me, for example. If I am in a clinical trial and somebody brought me 30 pages to read, it will be too much for me to really read. Issue approval to conduct research from the ethical aspects. Monitor research implementation on periodic basis. Maybe I need to check my eyes. Monitor the health condition of human object during the experiments. Coordinate with monitoring office as regard, checking the time, its relevant activities. So it's important to fulfill these 6 jobs to IRB to be legally sound. So let's think about group of people who's actually sitting in a room and try to discuss this kind of clinical trial. Have you seen a dossier of a clinical trial before? Who didn't actually? I assume that everybody, okay. For those who never seen a clinical trial dossier, it's something ranges between 100 pages and 600 pages. So it's a huge document that contains everything that you need to know about this investigational product, which is a medicine or procedure or whatever this investigational product. So imagine that a group of people need to read or acquaint themselves with this 600 pages. How many days you need to read a book of 600 pages, even if an entertaining book? Considerable time. So there is an art of reading this kind of documentation. You don't have to read it from من الجلد للجلد زي ما يقولوا. You have to read it with a specific method or a specific way where you know exactly where to look for the problem. And even with that, sometimes you will find yourself miss something very important. That's why you have to have many people read this document in the same kind of technique. So with that in mind, how many people do we have has the skills of reading clinical trial dossier in an effective manner, not in just a reading book manner. I would say even from the IRB members, we have a very minute percentage of those who can really do that. Hence, the long time needed for approval. So the long time doesn't happen because they are lazy, they are complicated, they are not interested, they are not part of the Vision 2030. The long time because of lack of training. So they need training to understand how to deal with this kind of dossiers in a specific time. Alternatively, we are discussing in the NIH is to do some sort of service. We are actually discussing how it should be legally organized. We can have a centralized way of approval, the ethical merits of research, to facilitate the process of the organization of the IRB. So they don't really have to, if they don't really have to waste long time looking at the scientific merits, because we will be responsible for it. We will tell them that this is scientifically merited and ethically merited, and what you need to do is what we call it the feasibility study. If you have the patient number, if you have the right procedure to do your research, this research in your premises, rather than waste their time and concentrated on 600 pages of heavy reading. So this is one of the discussions that we have to solve this problem. It's not yet materialized, but we believe with time we are going to be there. Now, another problem with why it's take long time, in addition to training, is the shaky hand, I call it, when it comes to sign as an IRB chairman, sign an approval for a drug to be tested on randomized clinical trial, for example, on a bunch of people. Usually people get scared because, again, they are not trained. They don't have the resources to ensure the safety is legit. They're under pressure to have to open their door for this pharmaceutical and let's say pharmaceutical clinical trial to accommodate it in a way or other. So when it comes to signing this paper, people get scared about the responsibility. What will happen if something went wrong? What will happen if a patient dies? What will happen if, am I legally covered in this kind of aspects? Am I ethically covered in this kind of aspects? What will happen if this happens? What is the rights of the hospital? So let's talk about a contract between us. Let's talk about legislating this, legislating that, include the legal department, include the contract department, and now we are talking about something totally different than the IRB actual approval. We are talking about the contract between the organization and the pharma company that produced the investigational product. So that dynamics of transfer from actually the shaky hand of signing the IRB and the need to be protected by other departments make it actually difficult for the people to do the due diligence in a timely manner, and then it will take time, it will increase the approval. We are also aware of that, and we are trying with our colleagues in the clinical trial unit of the NIH to have some sort of a program to solve this problem issue by unifying, by discussing with hospitals, by assessing this kind of fears legally and ensure that it's being done in the most efficient way possible. We are also aware that this kind of fear of responsibility stemmed from the fact that you don't have enough resources to help you when it comes to taking this decision. So yesterday we announced the program in the NIH. We call it the Research Participant Protection Program. This program actually comes to hospitals tell them that show us your documentations, and we are going to assess this documentation to ensure that you have enough infrastructure to protect people to participate in clinical trial. Why we are doing that? 10, 20 years old, I used to be a clinical trial coordinator, so I used to recruit patients for clinical trial. And as, believe it or not, I once was young, so enthusiastic. So I went to the field with this pile of paper, going to the people, try to convince them, selling the idea to participate in clinical trial, until I came to a situation where there was an old lady with her lovely daughter, and the lovely daughter was very busy, and she was like, I think she was a teacher or something, and she came from a remote place with her mother to this hospital, and this hospital wanted to include her mother into a clinical trial. So this young lady asked me a question after I gave her the introduction of clinical trial and all of the needed work that I need to do. She asked me, if this is your mother, would you ask her to participate in this clinical trial? And I paused actually, because I wasn't prepared to answer this question, to be frank with you, because I never put myself in the shoes of the patient. I was this enthusiastic coordinator who wanted to recruit regardless, because my target, if I may say, is dependent on how many head count I am recruiting into this clinical trial. So this question took me to a very serious pause, and I was really thinking, if this is really my mother, would I advise her to participate or not? And I try to see things in a different way. Okay, so of course I wasn't wise to say that, well, yes, go ahead, or no, I don't. I was scared to the extent that I start to parrot what in the informed consent without even try to think about this situation, try to escape from this situation. But I learned something important from this exercise. We have to put ourselves in the shoes of the patient to decide. So this is why we have this program, like 20 years later. This program is to ensure to protect this vulnerability of people who actually would ask this question: would you allow your mother, your sister to be, or your father to be part of this program or not? So we have this initiative, we announce it, and we are going to ensure that every vulnerability is protected. Now, why we are doing this? We are doing this because we respect clinical trial, we want clinical trial, we want to improve our market share of clinical trial, but we are aware that clinical trial is not pure science, or not pure, comes from the kindness and good hearts of people who's participating in it. It is something business-oriented. We understand that, we respect it actually. And we want to be part of it because of the benchmark. If we want to be in the frontier of innovation, we have to do that. So to do it right is what makes it actually interesting. And this is what we're trying to do in the NIH, to do it right. We want to be part, but we want to be part in the right manner, not to oversell our population for clinical trial, and not to undersell, not to be so protective in a way that would allow IRB to be called like anti-scientists. We don't want anti-scientist situation in our IRBs. This is why NIH is here. This is why NIH is trying to have this program to ensure that no exploitation happens for the decisions maker. Relax, you don't have to take the responsibility. We are going to take most of the responsibility, but your participation is going to be part of assessing if it's feasible for you or not. So again, articles, the protect human subject of the research, verify compliance with all requested and documented procedure. I remember one of my friends actually attended a conference And in this conference, they said that adverse event is the reaction that happens and most likely attributed to the investigative product that they are trying. Like, for example, if you have, let's say, Panadol, and after like 2 hours you have dizziness, they most likely assess this dizziness as adverse event to the Panadol and take that for any kind of investigation or product. And this is how they assess how dangerous it is or how safe it is to have this and when they open it to public. So one of the multi-central clinical trial, multi-countries actually clinical trial, said that these list of adverse events from country A, these list of from country B, C, Saudi Arabia, 0. And there was a pause of sarcasm actually. So this pause of sarcasm is very painful for people who understand what's happened in this seconds. They says by this sarcasm pause, either the people in Saudi Arabia are the most healthy people in the entire universe and they never have any kind of adverse event, and this medication was tailored to them, which is an impossibility, or there is a lack of system of reporting adverse event in Saudi Arabia. So that was very painful for the colleague who attended that, and from that time he was actually participating in changing that. And it's the responsibility of IRB to ensure that there is enough reporting system to the adverse event. I remember being in a discussion, a very tough discussion with IRBs who think that they don't have to report death, for example, when it comes to serious adverse event, if death is expected. To that extent, we need to do some sort of very strong assessment to protect the people who participate in clinical trial and ensure that there is system to protect those and to report if there is anything went wrong for the sake of the group. Ensure that the means of advertisements are fair. One of our colleagues actually in Belgium, he's actually one of the experts, top cream of the cream experts in bioethics in clinical trials specifically. And he had a daughter who actually in study, so one day she came to her house with a candy-like box, and she showed her father, because she knows that her father is part of a clinical trial ethics in the kingdom. She was wise enough and she played this game with her father, and she told him that today I participated in a clinical trial. They gave me 2,000 euro for that participation in a condition that I have to consume this once bill every day for the coming 2 months. He panicked, and he panicked because he knows that this amount of money is not going to be for a student just for something that is easy. And he immediately understands this is clinical trial phase 1, and they are not doing it right even. They are giving the advertisement in a candy-like setup, and they didn't have the due diligence of having them in a controlled place where they have to monitor any sudden changes in their vitals. So everything went wrong in his mind and his fear for his daughter. Eventually he found that she was just joking, but the part of joking that she's participated, but the rest of the information was correct. They're offering 2,000 euro. They are giving the commitment into a candy-like, which is kind of appealing to the eye, making people think that this is easy, and not doing it in the right manner. And we're talking about Europe, one of the best actually place to conduct clinical trial. So to do it in the kingdom, we have to do it in the right way, and we have to empower IRBs to do it in the right way without the time that is consumed, which means that we have to help IRBs to share this responsibility, to shoulder this responsibility, and ensure that they are doing it in the right way. Now, clinical trial, I talk about it, and this is almost the last slide. How 20 minutes or 0 minutes? Okay. Basically, this is the responsibilities that we have to take care of. We are receiving approval requests. We are decision on them. We do the review and the decision of the level of risk that is that comes with the IRB. We review and we give the decision. After we give the decision, we have the responsibility of monitoring, ensuring that everything is done according to the proposal that was accepted. And with that, also ensuring that the revision, the adverse event is done according to the system that enforced them to do so. And then ensuring that this clinical trial was closed in the right manner. With that, I think this is a summary, just a review of what I was said in a way or other, and thank you very much for the opportunity.